Just to review the two main points of minhag, all right? Because I know there seems to be an issue in so. All right, so there's two fundamental ideas by minhag. Just to go back, all right. One is the mechanism, and the other one is what a minhag actually is. So the mechanism, that's the whole issue with the chacham versus the people, nihug, etc. And the other thing, and the other main svara, right, is the one the Rambam had, which is that what is a minhag? So what do we say? What is a minhag? No. What is a minhag conceptually? How is it different than a gzera? What's a gzera is what? Gzera is you have a deraisa, right? The gzera comes along or siyah comes along and builds off the existing deraisa. But minhag's not like that. Right, yeah, like exactly, like oath. But minhag doesn't do that.
It has nothing at all to do with the conceptual halachic system.
No, a specific mitzvah or isser. Minhag is never tied to a specific isser. Minhag is reactionary. Minhag is that you have a method to ensure a greater adherence to the system of mitzvahs.
Right.
So, but it doesn't. Because
safeguards are not reactionary. It's like the natural
right.
duty of the rabbis. It sounds.
But that's why minhag can emerge without the guidance of rabbanon. Because what's the minhag doing? The minhag is only rabbanon. The rabbanon are the only ones who were given the ability to go ahead and safeguard a specific deraisa that has to operate through Sanhedrin and Beis Din. That's the only mechanism that exists for that. Because what it's doing is taking the word of God or the deraisa and playing with it, so to speak, building around it. But minhag's not like that. Minhag is that we have a method. I mean, that's what the Rambam basically says. He says that that you have things that are dinim asuyim al derech hachakira v'haskama b'dvar manoagim b'nei adam. There's no addition to the specific mitzvah or taking away. Meaning that these are things that advance a greater adherence to the system of mitzvahs. Okay, that's what a minhag is. Yeah. To answer the question of the difference between minhag and takana, it's more of a formality. In other words, takana is always through a rav. Rabbi X says minhag. It's not that a rav doesn't come up with a minhag; rather he sanctions it. Right? He'll say this will be a good thing to do.
That's structural. What about conceptually?
I don't think there's a difference. Oh. The clear from the Rambam, there's no difference. The Rambam puts them together in one category. There's no difference. The problem is today. This is where things get weird because you have to understand. That's what I didn't leave. That's where we left off last time we did minhag. The question is, how does it work today? I'm jumping many years, but if you think about it, we really don't have locale. What's the word? Locales. We don't have locales. We don't have like minhag Haifa versus minhag. We do have minhag Yerushalayim, but in general, we don't have minhag Haifa versus minhag Tzfat. That doesn't exist, right?
But we do have minhag Tzfat.
No, I'm saying okay. That's not real minhag Tzfat. Fine. We don't have minhag Haifa versus minhag Modi'in. We don't have that. Instead, what we have is if I asked you right now, where's minhagim most prevalent? Where would you say? Well, what do you mean?
I think the question.
Okay, well, let's say groups. Now, what do you mean by groups? Okay, so Yaakov's right. Now you have two kind of groups. You have the big divide of Sephardi versus Ashkenaz. Let's put Italians out of it. Sephardi Ashkenaz. That's one huge divide, which is an unbelievable thing. I mean, if you ever took a step back to think about it, granted that Ashkenazim and Sephardim do agree with about 95% of Judaism, but the fact is you have two distinct groups.
It's enough to say two Torahs.
It's pretty close to Los Escoto, okay? But so that's one. But within that, you also have, for instance, I mean, over the past 250 years, you certainly have Chabad, Gerer, Satmar, YBT. Although they would argue that just going like the Gra. But I'm saying but even the Gra himself, right? You have within Ashkenaz, let's say, even with Sfard, Moroccans, Syrians, Turks, they all have Bukharians. They have different within them. They have different certain little minhagim that differentiate one from the other. So that's one area. And there's no problem with that, by the way. You see that you'll never find like Ramosha writing a tshuva saying there's a problem with that. That's an accepted fact that minhagim emerge. It's just that they're not really city based. They're more group based. They started like in, let's say, Chabad. That started in Lubavitch. The city of Lubavitch had certain minhagim, right? But you also have other, where the minhagim most often expressed. I don't mean city-wise. Like, in what activity do we most often see differences in minhagim?
Shabbos.
No, it's a tefillah, right? Tefillah for sure.
Pesach night.
Tefillah. I mean, you see that's for sure. If you look at the tshuvas, the number one area we have differentiation in Minhagim is tefillah.
Why do you think it is?
Well, the word tefillah gets really weird. Is that you have Ashkenaz, okay? You have Sfard. Within Sfard, you have Edut Mizrach and other variations. Then you have the weird Nusach Sfard. That's always the weird one because Nusach Sfard is a much later advancement, which kind of merges together elements of Ashkenaz and elements of Sfard, and now you have Nusach Sfard. But that's definitely the number one area. But other areas we have different minhagim, and you see that sometimes different minhagim even express itself halacha. I mean, again, Sephardi Ashkenaz constantly, like Kitnius, is a great example. Yeah. Let's look at some practical stuff. How this stuff plays out today. Who's reading? All right, go for it. Let's start with the Shulchan Aruch. Wait, so Shulchan Aruch Yoredei Hilchos Nedarim Siman Reisha Dalim. Why is this in Nedarim? The Torah is also Nedarim. Why is the stuff about Minhag in Nedarim? What? Exactly. You need Hataras Nedarim to get rid of it. Okay, go.
Depends.
In general. Well, that aleph means. Yeah.
Things that are mutter, and everybody knows they're mutter, but they act with them as if they're aser.
Okay, so you already noticed, by the way, and the Torah says the same thing. We already noticed that the Achronim, Torah also, but they're making a paradigm shift because what are they treating minhag like? Treating like neder. It's like, in other words, you're acquiring a new behavior pattern.
I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it? You knew it was mutter and you acted as
For sure. What?
It's Kabbalah, yeah.
Yes, Kabbalah, right, 100%. The Asur Latirim Lahem.
So what, the Rishon didn't get the memo?
No, they just don't focus on that as much. They don't focus on this being an issue of neder. They would agree you need a Taras Nedarim.
Did not focus as much.
What I'm saying is that the focus is more placed on the neder aspect and less on what the nature of the minhag is. They care about once there's a Kabbalah, now you're stuck with it, just like you'd be stuck with a neder. But that's what they're saying. But the Rishonim don't talk about that so much. If you remember when we did the area minhag, very rarely was it ever discussed the notion of Hataras Nedarim or how there's a neder. It's minhag. You understand?
Didn't we say Torah is noted by someone?
Therefore, someone who has the minute to fast days before Rosh Hashanah.
Now he's not talking about Erev Rosh Hashanah because that's brought down.
Right. Just,
but people used to fast certain days.
Right.
Right.
That seems to be everybody, doesn't it?
Well, because that's the Ramah. That's the Ashkenazim.
Oh, sorry, no, do that.
They do Shavuot Shechabo.
Miyadain with Thomas, or from 3 weeks. Well, people don't eat meat in 3 weeks.
Well, yeah, okay, but what you're already starting to notice something very interesting. You're starting to notice that, like, things that we take for granted, right? Like, let's say, from Rosh Chodesh Av until,
right.
That's like, we treat that as if, like, if you ate meat during the 9 days, you're out of the religion, right? Most people will say that, like, God forbid you have meat or wine. But you see, it was like, it was a niyug. It was a niyug. Okay? Right. The road to Lachzerbo.
Because it's not healthy.
Yeah. Now, why is he picking these cases?
Common.
No, because there has to be a legitimate reason for you to get out of doing it.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? In other words, if a guy fasts all the time...
Oh, you can't say I don't want to do it anymore?
No. That's not a really great reason. All right, go on. Imbisha.
If he had in mind the time that he started minhag to always have this minhag, and then he actually did it at least once, he Kabbalah and Niyug. Tara, he needs Tara, Yiftach Bacharata, and he has to say that he regretted his heart, and now can shave it.
Right, that's the key.
Right. Lepiga Rotzelin, we saw Strum, Tarm, the Side will appreciate. Yom Rutchilis and Nahag Hasso.
That's like the most important thing, and I do that, by the way, personally. In other words, if you go through if you want to take upon yourself a specific practice that is not necessarily brought down, okay, or what do you call it, or even if it is brought down, but let's say it's like a das yachid, be very careful because if you ever want to back out of it, you're going to need to do Hataras Nedarim.
What do you say?
Like he says, this is a good formula. You say the Kabbalah, what do you call it? That I'm doing this as like a niyug, but I'm not accepting upon myself like a true Kabbalah. Yeah.
But what counts as a neder?
Rafika. Oh, so sorry. Gigami Amrashim Daklin came to Elapam who Pomashir itself, Lola not forever. No get Mr. Barmatarm, Machmash is sovereign Shamasarm, Law of the Kilo Kabbalah Manather.
Right, so we got that's consistent, okay?
The AP Shamashim Tov and Og Eser, Bedavar Mutter, initial material of Shloshi Kane at Tarzarm. So one of the more Machman says, no, even if you thought it was Asr, and you did it, you still counts a nether. You Medeshu Mutter and Og Eser, but if you had known it was Mutter and you did Nisr, you did it, you acted as if it was Asr, in material of Filu Kane at Tarzarm. Doesn't work even Tarzarm, Davi Kilu Kabbalah, Kisum, Shesartan Torah, Shalam Hatul Olam.
Good. Okay,
What
next.
does that mean?
What do you mean?
What does that last line mean?
A material low, afilu kein. If he knows it's mutter, but he treats it like it's asar, right? You don't make a mutter for him, right? Even with a tar sadarim, dahavik ilu kiblu al atzmo ki isurim shasras and Torah shein lam heter la'olam. So what? That's exactly what it means. In other words, let's say he knows something is mutter and he's noag iser. Okay, so but assuming that there's a basis for it, okay. Then he's stuck with that. That's his according to that shita, because we don't pass in that way. We pass and you can always get out of it, okay? But according to this road, if you decide to be machmer on yourself, you are stuck being machmer, okay? Like you want to be noah gisser in a certain way, you're stuck that way. All right, but we don't pass in that way. Like keep going.
I don't even know where you got that.
Whatever. Kabbalah Sarabim.
But if it's a Kabbalah of many people, so it falls on all of them and their children.
That's also an important point. See that's a critical thing. That's the first case. In other words, if let's say the minhag of a shul, well, I don't know if that's a good example, but once there's a minhag of rabbim, so and they're noeg a certain way, that's it. All their kids have to be followed that same thing. The Kabbalah is on every door after that. It's an amazing idea. Forever.
What if there's one stray door that doesn't do it? Would their children have to do it?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not. That feel with Varim.
Well, that's why probably not.
Because why would that gets into issues of can you, Ramosha has a tshuva on that. He has a tshuva on I think it's Ramosha that if a minhag is mufka, right? Let's say there was a minhag and then he stopped doing it for whatever reason. Why? Once the circumstances changed and they could do it again. I think the case was, I don't know if it was him, but there was a case by wine. Like there was a minhag to use wine for something, and then what happened was wine became very expensive, so they stopped using wine. Now the question is, once wine becomes cheaper again, do they have to now reinstate the minhag?
Saying Navi during Mincha, Haftarah during Mincha.
Okay.
Because they weren't allowed to, because they only did it because, or maybe they weren't allowed to because they made it Gezer against doing Navi. I forgot what it was. Some of the Romans made Gezer against reading Navi or something.
Right.
So then they stopped doing it and never went back to it.
Right. Yeah, go on.
Could you make a stipulation, like you're stopping it only?
But people drunk will keep eliminating airbus gamma, which no became the optimum loss of schedule cycle. Even if it wasn't, didn't have a sanction for this, they just did it.
Lodor Sham.
So to abide Lodor Sham, they become like the people city.
That's an important thing. Now, again, we don't really have that today, but let's say you go to, I'm not trying to pick on you, but let's say you went to 770, right? So does that mean you're now chayav to follow whatever?
That's not, I don't know if that counts as a place.
That's the question. What's a makam now? So we don't really have minhag. Like let's take Modi'in. So Modi'in, you have Teimanim, Syrians, Ashkenazim. You have everything. So there really is there's no makam anymore. You know what I mean? There's no idea of a makam. So a lot of these halachas don't apply. Right? Keep going.
Well, I'll tell you, there are minhag Charlotte or not minhag chosarts.
There are
universal.
Correct.
So those would apply.
Yes. Correct.
Also, by the way, is the minhag of the Iram named Hagam, the minhag Shbal Darbar last year, they came to a place right from out there. Turban made that after they acquire that heter as long as they're not planning.
Right. So a lot of this stuff, this is basic stuff, and we know this already. Okay.
Wait, even a personal one?
It seems that way. He says, "Da'achshav nizbarshu mutar minhagan hayabatos shenistafku b'davar v'achshav nizbarshu mutar lo avikilu kibel meneder v'niru dehu adin." Now this is funny chakira. Imu hayu sovrim shehu iser gadol. I don't know what that means. Da'achach nizbarsh aimbo iser kolkach lo ave neder. So let's say it seems that way, but in other words, what was their mistake? What was the nature of the taos? Like,
What does it matter? What's not permitted?
that's a very good question. I don't know. No one makes a comment. I have no idea where he gets this from, right? But the reason why I brought it in is to show you one thing. The Shach is telling you that toes can even exist, even within
In degree?
in degree. You can have such a thing. Okay, interesting. All right, let's get to today. All right, let's look at Moshe. All right, right. So his first case is a good case. Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly sure what his first case was.
Oh, so okay. So Makom Shenagu Minhage Menusach Ashkenaz Ve'ata. So what happens? So more people come in, right, who are Nusach Sfard.
You know, Azum and Hagen, they switched some in Hagen.
In Shapar Avdu. Did they do the right thing?
They switched them in Hagen.
The Ashkenazim decided to switch.
The Ashkenazim or
Yeah,
the Sfardim switched them.
I'm sorry, the Sfardim switched them in.
These are Nusach Sfard or Sfardim?
Sfardim. Minhage Menusach Sfard.
Okay.
Sfardim. We'll read the tshuva.
That is
What-
what
What does Im Shapiativ mean?
What?
What does Im Shapiativ mean?
Did they do the good thing? Was it good at what they did?
Oh, okay.
All right. All right, go ahead. V'davar makom asher minagea heim nusach Ashkenaz.
Dauer Rav Moshe Menageh, Hey Menusach Ashkenaz, on the Kivin Shebedina Zu, Darin Bechol Sviva, Gam and Ashim Shenahagim Nusach Sfard, Mispal, Gam Kemish Knesset So, in.
So what happened? V'davar makom asher minagea heim nusach Ashkenaz.
The Minhag was Nusach Ashkenaz.
But in this country, okay,
Nusach Sfard, and they
who
also-
all live around them,
they
right?
dominate
And they daven that way in their shuls. Okay.
Liegum Bashachadam, Azim and Hagim Shinoag Mem, Hamispalm Nusach Sfard. Pashad Linis Dadishin, Rov Mispalm, Haim Elim Nusach Ashkenaz, Vadilay Lam Lahanig Elu, and Hagim Neged Rov Mispalm.
Right. So okay. So again, what happened? So Gam came bebeis Knesses zeh and higu b'meshach yamim ezim and hagim. So in this shul, which was Ashkenaz, over a period of time, what did they start doing?
Other things.
They started bringing in nusach sfard.
Right.
Okay. Pashal ani as daiti. It's simple. Right. She'im rov hamispalim heim elu the nusach Ashkenaz. Right. If most of the mispalim were Ashkenaz, vade lo haya lahem lahanig elo elu haminhagim neged rov mispalim. So what is the minhag of the shul supposed to go like?
The
The rov. Okay. I mean, you have no right to change the minhagim of the shul. So you got to understand we're already getting to notice the difference here. We're not talking about cities.
Not sure.
We're talking about minhag beis knesses. Right. Okay. The afim.
After Rov Mispalm, Hey Matame, Nusach Sfard.
So even if the majority were nusach sfard,
Staber B'Shas L'Shanis V'Nargamakim Kiva Shika Sham Gam Har Melu Nusach Ashkenaz Avshem Mir. There's many still Ashkenaz people who daven in the show.
right? And even if it's a small amount, you have no right to ochre the minhag.
The Ein the
Chavos yair,
Kofis Yars and Tosh Sanachas.
sif katan tes,
The Rak Bein Sham Cloud Elu Shay Sham B'Manhigim.
b'minhagim metchila.
Begin the Tchila to Papa Minhagim. Kiva Shem Spata Laka'al.
Right.
Aber Yesham Adain Harbe Mehem Mashma Shem Din Haminag Al Alamakum. Chadashim Shbal Kan Yeshlam Leno Kim Hagim Shin Higu Sham.
Okay.
Free transit.
Yeah.
Okay. No. So he's saying that like this. He's saying that.
Is this not good Hebrew? Because this is.
No. He's saying this. He's saying that. He's saying it's masha the chavos yair, right? That as long as there is a kahal presence, you have no right to change the minhag. Okay. So as long as let's call a minyan. Okay. As long as there's a minyan there or there's members of the congregation present, you can't. There's no mechanism that exists for you to change the minhag of the shul. Even if the majority comes in, if new people come in, and it turns out that they're what do you call it? They're nusach sfard. By the way, so sham le'arash v'ran rivash the ikra din sheyesh alav dinei makom shedaita leo sham hu mishum that din sham minhag chal makom kol zeh sheyesh sham kahal. So now this is why this Ramosha is an important Ramosha. He's taking the notion of makom now and applying it to our version of makom. What's our version of makom today? Shul.
That's really binding.
What do you mean?
So if you belong to a certain shul and they bring in Shabbos, let's say 72 minutes, whatever it is, or you have to keep that? Like, do I have to keep, well, I guess not upstairs, but...
You mean like Rabbeinu Tam? Like let's say the shul held like Rabbeinu.
The shul Hashem, the aim possessed the year
Oh, the Rambam.
Oh, it's like Rak la Ramam the Iker Chal al Adam, right? Minhagesh Yatsa Misham Efshar Sheyesh Lemezal Basar Rov After Bo Achakach. So he's saying no, but according to the Rambam's the only one who holds. You guys remember that the Rambam held that you always carry the minhagim where you left with you. You're always defined by that, right? So therefore, you would, according to Rambam, he would say you still should go by your own personal minhagim, even if you're in a shul where the majority is against that. But the vast majority of Rishonim passing against that. What?
Actually, the week pass.
The Rov. We pass the Rov Rishonim. All right, keep going. Weiter.
But new minhagim that don't necessarily contradict old minhagim, it's just a new minhag. So for sure, then you could.
Right. So okay. So let's say Spartan come into an Ashkenaz shul and they say, "Listen, we want to start. I don't know what do you Bukharins like doing, serving tea during Shachars." No. That's what they did in Queens. Let's say they want to start instituting that minhag. What? On Shabbos, yeah, around there. Okay. That's what's in Lahanag. Yesh vader rishos Lahanag, right? Aval Heskem.
Rav Shalakal. The below Adam Chashav, you have Shalatak and Klum. You can't oppose that.
So again, notice what Ramosh has done. He's taken the whole notion of Makom, and the microcosm of Makom is shul. Just like you need on a normal minhag by a city for it to be considered a minhag that you can't uproot, it needs a chacham. Shul has the same thing.
I love at least Adam Chashav is so open to interpretation.
The who are Rav Shalakal? That's the Adam Chashav. The below Adam Chashav, you have Shalatak and Klum. Kedisa b'Vavasar Daf Tes Ayin Barash Sham Simon Lam Gimel.
The Gansar she has Skamis Rovakal. Oh, they also have to all agree.
That's correct.
Af B'Sarf Rav Ein Mol to Kundin Kal.
Right.
Okay. You need Rove to accept it.
Right, because you don't need the entire shul, Rov. Okay?
Thank Amiris, Mizmari Tehillim, Kamol David Mizmar Acher Shemar Esrei, the Leila Roshana, V'Yom Kippur. V'Amir Shir Mamakim, you say Mamakim Acher Yishtabach. Av Shgam Ken Leilu Shein Omer Miyesh Tam Lahakbid Shal David. Even though to people who don't say they have reasons why they don't. Shal David Mizmar Kim Shein Dvar Tefila, Alamir Shabach, Yesh Ulei Hafsek, Shein Tzarach.
According to Zgabal. One second, let's translate a second. Shekai al Tefila.
Shekai al Tefila. There's a reason by it, because Mizmor David.
David Mizmor. In other words, okay, let's just make sure everyone's caught up. In other words, he's saying that they're saying, okay, well, let's take the example of the introduction of two Mizmor Tehillim that everyone knows about. One, which we don't say, is the David Mizmor on Erev Rosh Hashanah. There's a big keyboard to open up do Psicha. The Chazan says the David Mizmor pasuk by pasuk. Right? No? Okay. Anyway, you go to 99% of the shuls in the world, they do that. The second one, which I'm sure everyone's familiar with, is also during Aseret Tshuva, saying Sherem Amos Mimama Kim after Yishtabach. It's before Yishtabach.
No.
After Yishtabach. Right, after Yishtabach. Okay, and they open the arm for that. So now, there are two problems with that. Okay, the problem with the David Mizmor is you're being Mosef to Tefillah. Okay? And the problem with Sherem Amos Mimama Kim is as a hefsek. Right? Who says you could just stick something in there? Those are the problems. So Ramosh is saying, even though by the love of Mizmor, there's legitimate halachic reasons not to say it, and the same applies to Sher Malos, right? Keep going. Big Peda. Right. But so even though there's some problems with it, right? Since we Mikolmachon came in Shahaya Zeb below Maisa, right? Lo Shayach Lomar Shaya Mina Kain Bikpeda. Right? So what is he saying? What's he saying?
You can't tell a minute not to do it.
Right. Even though the shul, okay, let's say the shul never said Shamalos Mimama Kim.
It doesn't mean it was minhag not to.
Right, exactly. It wasn't that the minhag was not to say it, right? Unless it was open in the shul that we don't say it. It's not that a person, they never said it before, that was the minhag not to say it. You understand?
Right, yeah.
It wasn't like they worked out we shouldn't say it. They just didn't say it.
Right.
Now they want to come along and say it. It's perfectly fine. Okay? Right? Lo shaykh lomar shahaya etzam minhag shelo lomar. Ella shelo yel minhag lomar. Lachem be'im rotzim rovakal yichon lahanig. Right? V'davka hefsek rav kedel. Okay? So it's very clever what he's doing. He's saying that when it comes to minhagim, right? When it comes to instituting new minhagim, even if the minhagim themselves might be problematic, as long as their lack of doing them wasn't based on being aware of certain problems, it's perfectly fine to institute them as new minhagim.
But in a case where it It's officer minute.
Right, it's Soser Minhag. What's an example of that? So let's say saying doing Hoshanas. So if you go to most shuls, when they do Hoshanas? It's unclear. Some shuls do Hoshanas after Musaf, right? And some shuls do it after Hallel.
No, we do proper Hallel.
Okay, now why do you do it after, just to get the rationales right, why would you do it after Hallel? Why would you do your Hoshanas after Hallel?
Is it actually part of davening or not?
Well, it is part of davening, but why would you do it after Hallel? Think about it on Sukkot. What do you have in your hands already?
Oh,
the,
you already have
You already have Lulav and Esrog in your hands. So instead of putting it down and picking it up later on, just do it now. Why would you do it after Musaf?
Take a break.
Which is a legitimate thing. Why?
Take a break from
Did
holding
it
a little
make
enough.
this?
You're on the right track. It's a great machlokas. The question is,
In general, isn't davening in general?
no. But the fact is that no, but Musaf is a unique avoda. So Hoshanas are in that category of unique avodas. So so 1 second. So Ramosha says, let's say now, what does the shul want to do? The shul says, you know what? For 25 years, we've been doing it after Musaf. Now we have a meeting, and we're gonna go ahead and change the minhag to what do you call it?
After Musaf.
After Musaf, after Hallel, whichever way.
Alright.
Okay. So he says you can't do that.
and being as there is a reason to do it after Musaf, it's not just random, because Ksiv, Abba, Simmons Tefet Shah, in terms of Shas, Kudrasim, Sheb Mishnah, Afrishan, Samach, Lashash, Hochel, Matan, Asal Shana, Shalom Achal, then you can't switch.
Right.
Gam Lom Achal, Eno, Gam, Lokar Sadigon, Shineri Kamal Hator, Shu Lom Achar.
Kriyas Torah. So he goes even further. He's saying there's not even a good source to say it after Hallel. You have the whole famous question because I remember this from Sajagon because he wants to say that what he would do it after Kriyas Torah. It depends whatever minute I'm at.
If you were starting to talk
After Hallel.
Why?
Because you already have the lulav and esrog in your hand. But I hear the thing by myself. The problem today also is that there's another interesting thing. Another problem I've noticed in some shuls is that they'll do it always after Hallel, except for on Hoshana Rabbah, because they want the chazan who's wearing the kittel doing the whole spiel to also.
Because it's very long.
What's amazing about this Ramosha is really, in my opinion, is Ramosha really takes the notion of makom and puts it in the context of Beis Knesset. That's the main point I want to get across. That shuls are really the makomos that the Gemara is referencing, so to speak. Okay, that's one. Next, now you have the one Or Chaim Chalak Dal Siman Yud Zayin. Hine Aktin Tchila. Now I only took a piece of this Ramosha, but keep going.
שמיום סמך לתקופה לפי חשבון של שמואל, ולא לפי חשבון של הרדה, שהושגג, which was a mistake.
Okay, so it's amazing. So this mistaken count, okay, of when you should say the same talamatar in Chutz La'aretz, this mistaken, it was all based on when to do it is based on an error. I don't forget the particulars. I don't care about that. It was based on an error. Okay.
Who said it was an error?
Everyone. The Nimsa.
All the Shams say it was an error?
I think it's only when the Achronim they bring it down. But anyway, the Nimsa.
Shek.
Trumas Adeshan, Choshev.
Choshev Shu Gadol Yosem Mikol Rasinar Shalom Rachronim. Mikol Gaones Manenu Shekum Shkag was that.
Everyone made this mistake. Okay? Everyone.
What's it talking about?
The mistake of the Cheshbon of Shmuel versus Rav Ada, of how many days of the Tekufa. Don't worry about it. Okay? Just know there was this tremendous error made. But everyone's knowing based on the error. Okay?
Yim Chali Trubistashin Shu Yarusa Yistarza. Afal Chashiv came.
All right, so he says, forgive me for suggesting that the Trumas Adeshan was out of line to even suggest that, right? The Kol Shekin Shul Lomar V'Luchtov Kain.
Oh,
no, it's
only the Trubistashin said it was a mistake.
Right, Trumas Adeshan says that everybody made this big mistake, right? Everybody, right?
Was like, excuse me.
Right, because so the Trumas Adeshan is saying that there was saying let's relax, Trumas Adeshan, okay? Let's take it easy.
Yoda, the Trumas Station, the Kolmash and Chasin shows in Afrak, Kahal Gadol, Bistro, and the recovery Shabbat and Asel Pichacham, Machar Shu Kahal, and Sherman Tomertis. And he said, first of all, anytime you see a big Kahal in Judaism doing something, it can't be a mistake, because for sure they're doing it after Chacham.
Oh, What does that sound like?
Sounds very.
Don't you remember that?
Ramban?
No, close. Remember the Rashba?
Oh.
Right. Remember the Rashba said that if the majority of the people are doing something, it always has to be valid, right?
The tzarech limsa tam l'mashinagin came l'nechashvu l'tam. You gotta find a reason. You can't.
Now this is such a critical thing. Okay, where Moshe's tipping you off here. It's not just in what he forget his case in general. Okay, it's a very important point. I can't emphasize this enough. When it comes to minhagim, our job isn't to mock it. You'll see from what the Rav writes. Okay, it's not to mock it. If a significant percentage of Klal Yisrael follows a certain type of minhag, even if it goes against what you would think norm of halacha is, let's say like Shir Ma'asim Ma'amakim Krasich Hashem, right? That's a different thing. Hold on.
No, I forget about Zohar.
Right, hold on. But you have to find a way. Our job is to find a way to show how that would make sense. Doesn't mean you have to follow it. I'm not saying you have to follow it, but you have to understand why would it make sense to say that. Is there a star to say why it makes sense? It's easy to knock down why it makes no sense, but you have to also find a reason why it would make sense. It's a very big thing in the Achronim in general, by the way. The Rishonim aren't sympathetic to that. The Achronim go nuts all the time trying to figure out, there's a certain minhag to do X, we got to bring in a reason why. Okay, but it's important. What?
Why?
Because if Klal Yisrael, if Rov Klal Yisrael are following something, there must be chacham behind it.
Oh, that's only when it applies?
Yeah.
See, there's...
If there's like a bunch of guys who have a weirdo thing, no. But if a significant percentage of Klal Yisrael are doing something, you must figure out what the reason is. Right? V'tzarech limso tam, lama shenogin kain. V'lo nechshavu l'tom. You don't just jump to say they're making a mistake.
What's considered rov?
Na'achashu kal mishomei Torah mitzvos. Now, of course, don't forget that, by the way.
Right.
Okay? They have to be people who are from. All right? V'tzarech limso tam, lama shenogin kain. V'lo nechshavu l'tom. Af.
Sharki, let's say no, okay, now keep you call after ein leno kamosam b'tzena.
The Yeshayim v'chol davar davar. Okay, so two things. First, well, let's say it's one kahila. One kahila has like or one group. Let's say, for instance, there's like a Belzer minhag, like not to have carrots on Pesach. Okay, because I think the Belzer Rebbe, I think it was him. The Belzer Rebbe didn't have carrots, so they learned not to have carrots. But you're not in any way obligated to
Keep that.
I mean, he's really trying to say, But what's the
What
key?
about like to us? Corey,
Okay. He says, "V'yesh la'ayin b'chol davar v'davar." That's the key line. Every situation requires its own independent analysis. You must analyze each situation. Okay. Aval davar shenagu kol Yisrael.
Rav Maz kamosam af mi shehoshu tos tzarach liyada sheklal Yisrael osim gedin yaf sheishal kush yalev any day lataret and a klur.
Right. So that's the thing. So if the Am is knowing a certain way, you must now again you get to this funny issue. What does it mean the Am is knowing a certain way? Let's be Grunix for a second, okay?
No, I want to say that about the corn. In America, it's a
no, but that's a question within minhag. But I'll give you a better example. Let's take like a minhag agra, okay? So let's say the minhag agra is.
That wouldn't be the whole arm.
Oh, one second. Well, okay. 97% of Bnei Yisrael on Yontiv, when it comes to the Shir Shal Yom. Actually, no, it's in the Luach. I shouldn't say that. Well, anyway, I'm trying to think of what gra issue, because there are.
It's more like if you don't like yarmulke.
No, but there's guys in Yerushalayim like true grunics who like. Here's a good one. Wearing tefillin all day.
Yeah,
That's a great one.
Let's
Let's take like wearing tefillin all day. Okay,
Yeah.
no one does that anymore, except for some yichidim, right?
I've seen your signs.
Zilbermans.
Right. Well, them and other like Rav Devin Soldads. There are certain yichidim who do
I
it.
saw some random guy walking.
There are some people who do it. So the question is, are they going against the minhag? If the minhag is not towards tefillin all day, or I'll give you a better one. Okay, the minhag today is not to duchen in chutz la'aretz. Which, by the way, again, with all due respect to Moshe, without question, was a mistake. Without question, right? Because who says you can start? Who says you shouldn't do your chayv duchen? There's nothing to do with Eretz Yisrael. But what's happened as a result of the minhag? If you open up late literature, what are you going to find? Rationales for why you shouldn't duchen in chutz la'aretz.
Right.
But initially, those reasons weren't there. Okay. Okay.
Well, Spartan's still looking.
Spartan good.
In chutz la'aretz, right? I'm talking about Ashkenaz.
So should I go to the Sparty?
Now this one's a good one because the reason why I chose this one is because this one talks about to what extent do minhagim apply. All right, so this is also part of a longer tshuva where he takes up the issue of how should. It's amazing. He's very very makel about dressing. Okay, not sneas wise. Insofar as is there really an idea to dress like they did in Europe, like black and white? Okay, so. Okay, so look what he writes. Uviklal, Right. So let's say I come to America and I say, okay, well, listen, in Poland we used to wear bekishes and all sorts of other weirdo things, right? Weirdo in relation to what people dress like today, not intrinsically weird, because I guarantee in the times where they wore bekishes, that was cool. Okay, there was a period of time where you look good wearing a bekisha.
I don't think the kapata was ever cool.
What is that? The
That's not about.
Oh, what about like the fur hat? See, that makes a lot of sense in Europe. That makes a lot of sense, but in a Middle Eastern country, is
He names up Shash Mamish Lo Adif Minhag Dain Rosen Schnap and Big.
oh, so he says okay. So he said this can't be better than the minhag of the case of the Shnei Achen that in Kabul that they wouldn't have two brothers bathe together, right? Or the slippers, right? The kurdakisin, right? Or the sitting on the business benches, right? Right? She'enam b'din minhag mamish. They aren't really minhagim, right? They're what? Well, what does he mean by enam b'din minhag mamish? Because they're not a minhag of Talmud Chacham, right? Okay.
Well, this is a minute Talmud
No, what do you mean? The gamistaver. Right, that never happened. A Chacham never came along and said.
That's not true. What do you mean the bells are? I'm saying like all the Hasidic Rebbeim tell their Hasidic dress like that. And how could he say that? I don't know.
The Chol Medina Shidago came. The Lomistaver she technically it's not less or a little bit big date semer, right? There's no idea they're going to come along and say you can't wear like wool clothes. Shistam Megan Shabatorah him semer o pishtim. El Shatam Chacham Nagu la'atzman l'salsol ba'alma. The huskudu gam harbe me'am l'sana kain. Ba'atzman. Right, so what actually happened? Now, this is very similar to which type of minhag?
Oh, the one, the Rama mentioned it.
The Rashba.
Mentioned it.
Minhag Nevi'im. Right. So what happens? A Talmud Chacham came along, and he wanted to dress a certain way. He had a certain type of dress. So what did his followers do?
Same way.
Right, it's like the gray hat. Right? So, you got to be honest with who you are. Bibigadim aruchim ketam chacham, right? Like the long clothes. Shevade lo hinigu zeh b'derech minhag les bigadim ksarim, right? They didn't do that. They weren't saying one exclusive to the other.
Can't yell at a buffer for wearing a suit.
Right, but he would never say it's a minhag. Okay. Right. So that's an important point. Okay. So Moshe? That's another important point. Moshe is saying that you got to be careful. Another thing you have to take into account. That's why this area is so complex. Be careful. You would never say that. You have to think into what if someone says they have a minhag. Okay. You have to think into what do they mean. This doesn't. You would never say begadim can ever fit into a minhag of like we know it's mutter and yet we're treating it like it's usher. That kind of thing. It doesn't fit into that. It's just exactly stop thing.
This makes me feel holy.
That's a separate issue. Okay. So last thing about this is there's a very famous thing about the Rav. Okay, and I can't stress this enough. Okay, look what he says. Minhag Yisrael Torah here. Okay, so a significant part of the Mesorah of the Rav, which he spent a lot of time on, is the area of Minhagim. Why? Right, Minhag Yisrael Torah. Now, what does that mean? Based on everything we said up to this point, what does it mean to say that Minhag Yisrael Torah here?
Part of the halachic system.
Part of the halachic system. Okay, now meaning that when it comes to its formulation and the mechanism, there's no question that minhag is not as the same thing as a regular derbanan. Okay, that's without question. But insofar as how you relate to it, okay, you should relate to it. Well, for now, a good minhag, like let's say this, okay, like wearing yarmulke, minhag Yisrael, that you relate to no differently than you relate to any other thing in Torah. That's what he means by it's Torah. All right, meaning that when it comes to minhag, if it's a legitimate minhag, you should relate to it like you relate to any other halacha. You don't differentiate in your mind. Okay, well, that came about through an inferior mechanism than that. Once it's in part of the halachic system, you treat it as if it's halacha. Okay, that's why like if you say like it's just a minhag, be careful. Okay, you got to be careful. So what would the Rav do? V'lo rak. Minhagim. So it's not just that, not just the area of shmiras minhagim, and that you're bound to follow them.
Halaflin Zeh Shatari.
Right, that's the key thing.
Right. Lomad also on a tree.
So we're chayev to learn about minhagim. You're chayev to get into. Now, it doesn't mean like, again, like the bells of Rebbe not eating Karen and Pesach. He's saying like minhag Yisrael.
Right one.
Yeah, right. Keep going.
Bashir al Kain Hikdish Rabbeinu Harbe Masker Nasai.
Right, umizmano b'shirav. Right, so he would set aside a lot of time.
To explain Tamim Hagam
V'yisodam,
and
right?
other sources. But also Hasaknan.
Asignon.
Shtad Tamim Lavin is so
Amazing. So the Rav would, what's the Rav Shechter really saying? Rav Shechter is saying, and what would the Rav do? The Rav would use the derech. He'd use a brisker derech, the same way he would use a brisker derech to get into halachic sugyas like in Gemara, right? He would use the same exact derech when it came to understanding minhagim. So therefore,
Lav and Latzmo, he spent a lot of time trying to understand. Well, how's Belchem explain this? Minhag Pashul, Lam Mishas Pidus Eser Slivers, Lamaros, notwithstanding the fact, she's that connected to Rambam.
oh, stop. So that's a perfect example. The Rav dedicated a significant amount of time, right, to defending the minhag that everyone has, right, of standing up for Seres Dibros. He does it in Hari Kedem, and so.
Yeah, oh, my brother's shul, they didn't stand up.
So another minhag pashut is to wear your talis at night and then throughout the entire day, right? If you never go, what do you call it? That's what most people do. So the note guy, if you in the bottom, the note says on 38, "B'harbe kihilos nagu lilbosh as a kittel, rap yom kippur v'lo Rosh Hashanah." Okay, and there's another thing where there's a lot of shuls where they would only wear kittel on Yom Kippur, not Rosh Hashanah. That's everybody. What today? Kittel to say is a great example of a minhag that it's a funny minhag.
My brother,
But
my
people
brother
today-
wore it, and also my father didn't wear it because he's a novel.
Oh, so a lot of people today have gone out of their way to justify wearing a kittel. Why? Because everybody does it.
Well, my father
Right.
doesn't.
Really?
Yeah.
Why not? I did see one person say, which is a kind of a cutesy answer. Why would you wear a kittel? You can always use this as a.
Taken out from
What will wearing a kittel do?
holy.
No, what's it going to do?
Make it look different.
Make it look different. Sheila Sabain. Daddy, why are you wearing a kittel?
Oh my goodness.
All right, that's not so bad. Anyway, so the minhag
You
today.
can do anything on Pesach.
You're right. If you came to my house, you'd see that to be true. Most shuls, which is true, what do? They wear the kittel on Yom Kippur, not on Rosh Hashanah. V'af ostan kihilo shenagu lulovsho afilu Rosh Hashanah. Okay, mikol makom rap Yom Kippur nagu lislavish betalis ibod Yom. Right, kadesh meutaf gamul Yom Kippur v'gam Yoma. So there's a minhag like that. V'tzarich lahavin tam and hagamelu. Right, we have to understand why is there minhag in some shuls to wear kittel on Rosh Hashanah. Excuse me, just to wear it on Yom Kippur. Not Rosh Hashanah. Why is such a thing true? Okay, so then he explains the reason why. But the point is that when these things come about, we must try to understand what the purpose of the minhag is. Okay, so back to Nefesh Harav. The minhag.
But Minhag Shechasam Darash is retarded Shas Chasam.
Okay, so there's a minhag that the chassan not done often today, but the chassan would give over Dvar Torah at the time of the wedding. Okay, I've not been in a wedding where they do that, but okay. Uma. Very strange minhag, right? There's a minhag today, right? It's a minhag that women do not bow, right, during the avoda of Yom Kippur. Whereas when we say Kohanim, na 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 na, when they heard the Shema for us, what would they do? How you korim, right? Mishtach, whatever. There's all sorts of reasons given, but it's a new minhag.
Right.
But since everybody does it, we must understand why that's the case.
The S Minhag Latar Bezdin Latar Sandarim. Amir is called Ninja Tegu Flifnei Knesses Yom Kippur.
Right. So why is there? No, he wants to know. No, by the Kol Nidre, I forgot what this minhag is. It's the minhag to actually have like 3 people present or something like that. But whatever. Okay, go on. Lamod. Right. So you have the whole business of Baruch Elokeinu, where people stand. Right. So the point is, all these things require what? They require explanation. So if you treat minhag, and so what's his point? If you treat minhag like Torah, he's saying it's not just insofar as your obligation to adhere to them, but also insofar as how you learn them. He's saying that minhag should be treated like any other halacha. So therefore, if Bnei Yisrael are knowing a certain way, right, you need to figure out, even if it doesn't mean you have to paskin that way, because Rav didn't paskin that way.
Right.
But if you're, to me, it's also an idea of intellectual honesty. But you really are chai to go ahead and define each side of the machlokas. It's always easy to go with the mistake side. Like let's say mimam kim. Like why would I say shem as mimam kim? It's easy to understand why we wouldn't say it. But the question is, can you understand why you would say it? How do you override the problem of what do you call it of the hefsek? By the way, if you guys remember,